Hello and welcome back to this channel. So I filmed this tutorial a really long time ago, hoping to edit it and post it, but life happened, I never could. So almost about to scrap this thing off completely, but then I decided that it would be really useful to some people who are out there looking to create these watercolor elements or watercolor clip arts. So here it is. Go ahead and watch it if you want to. So in today's tutorial, we're gonna go ahead and draw some more fall themed things with watercolor, and then I'll show you how you can convert this into a pattern, something like this, using Adobe Capture, or maybe just make a simple banner or display thing. Okay, so let's just get started. I'm going to click on Create New, and I'm using the current screen size. You can use whatever size you want, by the way. It's under digital. I have a sketch and a color palette for you guys, so go ahead and bring that in. You can find the link to download them in the description box below. So once you have downloaded all of these onto your system, let's go ahead and bring them in. Click on Images, go to Photos, and bring the sketch. There you go, click on Done. So what I'm going to do basically is use watercolor brushes. If you've ever used watercolor brushes, you know that it's really hard to control the edges. So I have a video on 3 different ways in which you can control the edges with watercolor brushes. If you haven't watched that yet, I would highly recommend you go watch it, because there are many more methods of doing the same thing that I'm going to do now. And I think it's very informative. I'll leave the link to the video in the description box below or here in the cards. Now let's go ahead and get the colors. So there are many ways to get colors into Fresco. Again, I have a video on that. I'm going to link it in the description box below or here in the card. For this tutorial, I am going to use the colors from the Adobe Color library. So that means, let me delete this. If I go into all and if I go into my library, I have the fall colors that I've chosen. You can find these themes in Adobe Color and then just save them to your library, and that's exactly what I've done. I will share the colors as a color palette image for you guys, so you can use that to bring the colors into it. You can bring the colors into this artboard by making sure that you go to Settings, App Settings, and turning on the Auto Create Color Palette. And once you turn it on, make sure you go click on your photos and bring the color palette image in, and then automatically it will get updated under Recents. Let's start drawing now. So first of all, I want this to be in a multiply mode. That is, click here on the levels and make sure you make it multiply. And then if you want, you can reduce the opacity a little bit. I'm just going to keep it at a little higher for now. Now I want a base for all these elements. That is, if I take a watercolor brush and choose some color, let's say this, I try to draw the pumpkin, not this, let's go for watercolor and watercolor wash flat. And if I try to draw the pumpkin, it's going to go everywhere outside, and I don't want that happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a base, which is basically white in color. So let's go ahead and click on a new layer here and fill this one with some random color. I'm going to keep a gray color, use the fill tool. By the way, you can choose whatever color you want here. Use the fill tool and fill this in with vector. So now it's a gray background, and now you can see when you put a base color on it. So click on a new layer and click on your vector brushes. I'm going to go into basic and basic round. And one thing I will make sure for this brush setting is that I'll go into this one. And then if you click on pressure dynamics, make sure it's turned off. What this does is you have a uniform brush. If you turn it on, then if you put pressure, it becomes thick and thin, and we don't want that. So I'm going to turn it off. Let's go ahead and choose white. Now I'm going to draw the shape in white. That is, I'm going to go ahead and do this and like this. So my size is set to around 5.5. You can click and just increase or decrease, or click and hold and then type it in here as well. You can increase or decrease this by doing this as well. I'll keep it on 5 or 6 or something like that, so it's easier to draw the outline. So once you have it, we're going to fill it in. So click and fill it in. So we're going to make each element on a separate layer. There is a reason for that, because when we need to move things, it'll be much easier for us. Okay, so that's one done. So I'll click on the next one, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for this one as well. Next layer. And when you have an element like this, you just draw the outline and then fill it in like that. Let's go ahead and finish this off, shall we? Okay, so now we are done with all the base colors, and now it's time to go ahead and add some colors to this. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the first one, and then we'll slowly move up. Okay, so click on plus so that you create a new layer just above the white layer, and then make sure you click on clipping mask. So now what this does is whatever you color on this layer, it's going to show up only on the white part of this layer. So we'll go into our watercolor brush, and I'm going to go into wash flat, and my setting is at 512. It's the biggest. You can reduce it if you want. Maybe let's reduce it a little bit, 100 or 12 or something. The flow is set to 100, and the water flow is also set to 100. Now let's go ahead and choose some color. I want some light yellowish color, and I'm going to go ahead and add a bit over here. And now you can choose something dark like this orange or really dark red or something, and you can go ahead and choose to color it over here. And you see how nicely this mixes. That's the beauty of watercolor brushes, that it mixes so nicely and gives you this really nice look. So make sure that there are no white spaces left. If you want, you can go ahead and choose some darker red color like that and add it a bit towards the edges over here so that it looks a bit darker. So you can always go back and remove your sketch to make sure that everything looks nice and neat. That's perfect. Now let's add some finer details to it. I'll go back to the clipping mask, and I'll click on another layer and make this clipping mask as well. So now this clipping mask is also going to work on the white layer. It's not going to work on this layer, but on the white layer. So let's go ahead and choose our watercolor round detail, and I think I'm just going to stick with that really dark pinkish red we have right now. And my setting is at 31. The flow is at 66. Probably keep it 100. And the water flow is at 46. You can keep it as low as you want so that it's much more nicer and crisper. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add these lines over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and group these three things together right now. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and click on the base layer, the white layer, click on three dots, click on select multiple, and click on the two layers that we just created over here above that, and click on this folder icon. Now it's all grouped together, and I see there's some rogue stroke somewhere, because of which it has taken a lot more space. Maybe let's go back inside, and I think it's this one. Yes, this has a rogue stroke. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck that. Now I can see it. Like, remove the clipping mask, and then you can see the rogue stroke, your eraser, and just erase it off. And now we can click back in and make it into a clipping mask. And now you see that the element is in the center. So this means that the element is the only thing over there. You don't have any rogue strokes. The element moves to some corner, you'll know that there's some rogue stroke and you need to get rid of it. Okay, so now let's go to this leaf right here. Again, same process, plus, and make it into a clipping mask. And I'm going to choose some reds now, maybe this really nice red, and go back to your watercolor wash flat. You can use any watercolor brush you want, even basic watercolor. Maybe let's try that and see how it looks. I'm going to make these edges quite red, as you can see, and then in here in the middle I want to make it a little bit yellow, or I want it to be a little brown, or maybe this brown. And you can see that it mixes. Make sure it mixes nicely. And once you're happy with everything, you can just click on plus and down, and then go ahead and choose the dark color that you want. I'll use the brown now, and go back to your watercolor round detail. Okay, that's fine. I think my lines were a little too thick. I would highly recommend that you keep those lines thin, then it'll look much nicer. So you can again go ahead and group this off as well. Let's go ahead and do that. Next up is this acorn. For the acorn, I'm going to do the same process, and we're going to choose some lighter brown that we have, and go back to your, I want the watercolor wash flat because I really like it. And I'll try to put a little bit of extra dark color here. Maybe even go ahead and make it a little darker and add a bit over here so that it's a bit darker in the bottom. And then I'm going to click on a new layer and down. Now I want to draw the top part, so I'm going to go ahead and choose this darker or lighter color, anything that you want. Usually it's darker, isn't it? So let's choose the darker one, and I'm going to go ahead and draw it up here like this. And now over here, as you can see, I've created extra things here. So I'm just going to go my eraser, really make it small and try to erase it off. Make it really small so that it's nicer to erase. And obviously you can see some white parts over here. So I'm just going to go back into this layer, choose my other color that I had, wash flat, and going to go ahead and fill it in to make sure that it's not bad. I think the eraser part didn't work really well. I didn't do a good job, but I would highly recommend that you do a good job. You can always make it really tiny so that it looks much nicer. If I remove the sketch, you can see that it's a bit wonky, but it's okay. That's fine. Let's go back to the top layer here. Click on plus, and I'm going to click on clipping mask again. And now I'll choose some really dark color, maybe a black, and go back to my round detail, and I will add some extra things like this. That's it, but it's not completely ready yet. So what we're going to do is we can create one more layer and make sure it's a clipping mask because it has to come on this. I'm going to go ahead and choose that really dark brown that I had, and I'm going to use this brush itself and maybe a little bit of darker color, and then add a bit of, you know, some dots over here. I think that's it. You can go ahead and group it. And next one is this fern. So let's go ahead and give some multiple colors to it. Some yellow and some maybe red. I think I'm happy with that. Group it together. Let's move on to the next one. And this one, let's make it brown and a bit of yellow over here. And then plus. You can actually use the pencil that we have used. If you go into recents, you'll see that pencil as well. And then just choose the dark color. You might ask, why am I not merging them all together? Because that will save a lot of time. But the thing is, we group them instead of merging them is because if you double click, it's still editable and you might want to change things later on. When you're working, it's really good to have them in such a way that you can always come back and edit things whenever you want. Okay, next one. This one, I'm going to go ahead and choose some olive green and maybe use the watercolor wash flat and give some light olive green in the top part of it, and then use some darker ones in the bottom. That looks good. Now I'll go into next layer, and I want to start with, you see that this one and this one is in the background, like I think this one and this one is in the background, so we need to make them out first and then only we can go up and try to make the rest of them. So I'll just go ahead and use the light pink or light red that I have, and I'm going to go ahead and draw this. You might have to come back and erase this off here because as you can see, it's going into the leaf layer. That's because we have a single base, right? So it's going to work like that anyway. I'm going to put some here and then take really dark red and put some here. Oh, I chose a brown. I don't want a brown, I want a red, and that's cool. Now let's go to the next one. Again, clipping mask, and I'm going to make a red one here and a red here as well, and choose a lighter one and mix it in like that. Okay, now use your eraser, and I'm going to make it really tiny, maybe 4 or 5 or 6, something like that, and I'm going to carefully go erase this part here, and that's the same here as well. That's good. And go to this layer, and obviously we'll delete this off. Now I'm going to go into a separate layer, again clipping mask, and I'll choose this brown. I'm going to go ahead and eraser, going to go ahead and fill it in so that it's a bit brown. Okay, I think I like it. I'm going to click on plus again, and I want this dark green. I'm going to make it a bit more darker by pulling this one a little down, and go to your round detail, and then just, oh, that's too thick. Now let's group this in. Next up is the mushrooms. Click and click on clipping mask, and now we're going to give a bit of a red color to this part here. So go and use this nice little red. Let's choose the watercolor wash flat, and I'm going to go ahead and add the red over here, and I will choose a bit of white and add a bit here. And now I'll go back and take the red again, and now I'm going to add a bit of red, and you can see it's created a bit of whitish pinkish thing over there, which what we are going for, by the way. You see there's an extra thing here. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to try and delete this extra things off here, and clipping mask. Now click on plus, and now clipping mask again, and we have to form the bottom layer of this. So I'm going to go ahead and use the brown. Any brown will do actually, and let's go ahead and draw this. I'm going to stop at here, at this place over here, and I obviously want some white because I want this place to be a little lighter maybe, and a little more watercolory, so I'm going to add some white in there as well. And now plus, and again clipping mask, and now we're going to add this center thing. I will choose the lightest color that I can make, maybe around here, and then I will choose the detail brush because it's much more easier. We have to remove the sketch and take a look at this because it is a bit complicated. Okay, you see this extra line here. This doesn't look good, so I'm going to use my eraser, make it really small. Let's go back to that layer and let's erase it off. Okay, there you go. That's much better. Let's bring the sketch back. Come back here or anywhere, it doesn't matter. Plus and clipping mask again, and we're going to choose some white and a round detail brush, and we're going to add some rounds. Okay, so once you're finished with it, let's go ahead and group this up. Now it's time to make the pumpkin, so I'm going to go into the pumpkin base plus clipping mask. So now let's go ahead and choose a really light yellow. This is going to be your base for the pumpkin, so I'll choose in this one maybe choose a little bit more towards the lighter side. Choose the watercolor wash flat, and then increase this a little bit, maybe 200, 260. Okay, that looks better. So I'm going to add a bit of color like this, and I'll choose a darker color, maybe really dark red-ish thingy, and I'm going to add a bit over here like that. It's good, but I really don't want it everywhere, so I'm going to use my eraser, and I'm going to carefully erase this part over here and a bit over here as well, and maybe increase and just delete it off. Okay, that's good. And now we're going to go ahead and make other layers. Oh, I see there's some white which we left. That's not good, so I'll go back here and use my use my brush, watercolor brush, to add some details here, and then use my eraser and make sure I cover all the white areas that's over here like this. There shouldn't be any whites. Okay, that's really important. Next, we're going to make the layers below it. So obviously you're going to go to the base layer and click plus so that it's a clipping mask below this top layer. Okay, and let's choose the red, and you can use that color, and we're going to go ahead and add a bit of red over here. So it's nice and red, and on the top as well and in the bottom as well. And then use the lighter color. You can go to recents and use that and just color it in. You can reduce this, by the way, and try to make it as nice and easy as possible if you want. And I'm going to go ahead and add some yellow here as well, and use the dark red and color it in. And now I'm going to go ahead and use the eraser and erase this off. So this is not the only method in which you can draw this, but I like it because it gives me the exact results that I'm looking for. Go back to your base layer, plus take your red, go back to your brush, and again go put some really dark color here so that you can see the difference, and over here as well. And you can go ahead and use the yellow and basically put in the yellow. You need to put the top layer there, so go back here and plus, oh wait, we didn't erase it off. We need to erase this part here, And then let's go ahead and choose the color, this one, and make it red. Go to a different layer and then add it so that it's like that. And for this top, go to the topmost layer, plus go to brown, and then, you know, add it. Obviously you have to make it clipping mask, otherwise it won't look good. And just add these spots like that. Okay. And once you're done, if you go ahead and uncheck the sketch, you should be able to see a nice little pumpkin there. But you see that it doesn't look so great. There's some extra thingies. So what we're going to do now is go back to this white layer, click on plus, and I'm going to choose some yellow or orange or anything, and use one of your watercolor brushes, flat or something, and just color up the whole thing with that color like this. So you're giving a base so that, you know, these white spots and all those things won't be visible, and you'll have a better looking pumpkin. And you can also move the brown layer a little bit down here. Nope. Here. Okay, this looks much better. You can also put some spots and stuff like plus, and obviously go get some red and use some watercolor round detail and add some spots. You can give a brown spot because I think that'll look much better instead of a red one. You can also reduce the opacity of it by going into levels and reducing the opacity. Okay, and or you can make it into overlay or something so that it's much more nicer, and you can increase the opacity now and it'll look much nicer. Overlay is a very good blend mode. I use it all the time. Okay, so once you have the pumpkin, now it's time for the cup. Let's go to the cup. Oh, we forgot to group it. Let's go to the cup and then plus sign. I want a really light brown on the top like that. I'll choose a brown. You can choose any brown that you want. I'm going to choose a dark brown because I like it. And I'm going to make sure that it's a nice thing like that. And you can add more lighter browns or darker browns to make it, you know, much nicer like this. And let's choose a really light color, maybe this lightest pink, and go to round detail, and we're gonna add a banner like this, and dark color, maybe black. Okay, that's it. And then in the end we have this one right here, squirrel. You don't really have to draw this because I know it's ridiculous, but let's go ahead and draw it anyway. I'll take some yellow and use the wash flat, probably add some color to it, and I'll add a little bit of darker brown in the bottom. So the water flow is really high. You can reduce the water flow and then you won't have this blotchy things happening. You can control that as well. Now I'll click on plus and create a clipping mask. I'm going to add some dark browns here and some yellow over here. And next click again and clipping mask, and my head is going to be completely yellow. Oh, I think I should delete this a little bit here because it's across the neck and it doesn't look good. Okay, and then go back to your brush, and I want this to be a little more orange on the head of the something like that. That looks better. Maybe a bit brownish here, you know, just so that it's nicer, I guess. And then add a plus and like that, and we need to give it an eye. Again, go here and however big you want. I think I'm going to give that, and then plus, and again like this, and I'm going to add some, this is too thick, so what I'm going to do is I'll use a pencil. Okay, all the elements are ready and everything's ready. Let's go uncheck this layer, and now you can see your elements clearly, like how they look like. Now I'll go to the bottommost layer and uncheck it, and now you have a transparent background. So you have each element in a separate layer, so that's good. You can use it for a lot of things. Now I'll quickly show you how to arrange this into an art piece that you can use to create things like the first thing that I showed, which said hello fall. So let's go back outside. I'm going to click and duplicate this. So the reason I'm doing is obviously I can work in the same document, but I don't want to damage any of my artwork. So I'm going to always duplicate it. Now click on that. And once you have it, I'm going to go ahead and merge everything. Like click and click on merge layers in the group. So let's go ahead and do that. Click, merge layers in the group. Okay, we have all the layer merged, so they're all separate elements now. If you click and if you try to move, they'll move. That's awesome. Now I'll show you how to arrange this so that you can create a fall themed greeting card or a banner. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm in a squirrel. I'm going to go ahead and choose my pumpkin now. So I'll be in the pumpkin layer. I'll choose the selection, and obviously I'm going to go ahead and keep it in the bottom. When I'm doing that, I am putting this a little bit down so that it's a bit out of the frame. And now you can go ahead and click on the icon and it chooses that. So you can bring the icon as well. And I'm going to keep it right next to the pumpkin. And I'll use these corners to increase or decrease it, by the way. And you can use this to tilt it a little bit. If it's not behind the pumpkin, you'll have to move it behind the pumpkin. Okay. And now let's go ahead and get some coffee. And next, let's do the squirrel. I want the squirrel to be around here, but I want it to face in the other direction. So I'm going to click on this here, which rotates it and makes it look in the other direction, which is exactly what I want. I'm going to keep it here. And next, let's arrange some foliage. So let's choose this one here. And I'm going to go ahead and flip it so that I have it like that and turn it around using this handle here. Let's first duplicate it. Okay, let's click on done, continue, click and duplicate layer. We want 2 of these, so even if it crops out, it's okay. Now I'll go ahead and click and I'll go and bring this here. See, we made a duplicate, so the other one is still going to be there. I'm just going to go ahead and keep it around here. That's perfect. Continue. It's going to crop these things. That's okay. Now go to the other one. That's this one. Click and let's flip it so that it's in the other direction. And probably make it something like that. I'm going to make it a bit bigger, a little bit outside the bounds as well. I think I'll have to decrease the size here because all our artwork has moved towards the side. Click on done. We want this one, so I'm going to go ahead and look for it. This one right here. Here we go. And I'm going to bring it up here. You know, I don't like the color scheme of that particular flower. So what I'm going to do is click on this here, click on clip and click on hue saturation. And now I'm going to move this so that the color is a little different to what I want it to be. So maybe around 15, 16 or 17, and then it becomes the color that I want. And since we applied a clipping mask, this effect is going to apply only to this particular layer. And now I'm clicking it and clicking on merge down because I don't want to make any more edits and I want it to be a single layer so that it's easy for me to move. That's good. And now let's go ahead and take this one here. There you go. I'm going to duplicate it because I think I might need another one of it. I want that to be above this flower. So I'm going to go ahead and click on done, continue, click, and I'm going to move it up. So it goes above that one. And I can still do this and turn it around or something and make it something like this if you want. Okay, click on done, continue. And I will do the same thing for this one. And I want this one now. I'm going to duplicate this. Click and duplicate layer. Let's put this somewhere here like that. Okay, that looks better. I guess you can increase the size as well if you want. Maybe like this. Okay, that's good. And the other one, we're going to go ahead and flip it. And we're going to put it somewhere here. And continue. And now we have one of these. Probably this one is enough. Click and we're going to put it, oops, undo. But I want it behind the icon. So once you click done, click and drag it below. It goes behind. So, okay, your basic things are ready. But hey, wait a minute. I forgot something. I forgot the top part, right? So I'm going to go ahead and check which leaf is better. This one is better. So I'm going to click and duplicate this one and click. And we're going to go ahead here and flip it. And obviously do it like this and make it somewhere here. Duplicate that again and do this so that I can put one here as well, either inside or a little bit outside so that it looks a little different. Click on done, continue, And next, let's go to this one here. Let's see which one is that. That's a bit cut off, so we can't use it. I'm going to use this one. So done. Let's duplicate this, transform, and we need to obviously go up here, but we need like that. And I'll go ahead and move the leaf a little bit because it's coming right behind that and that doesn't look good. So let's go ahead and move it like that. Maybe click on done, continue, and let's choose this leaf here and duplicate layer. And I think I want this to be a little bigger, and I also want the color to be a little different. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same technique that I showed that time, that is hue saturation, and make it a little, oh, I can't see it, darker. What happened to the, yeah, like that, and maybe saturation and make it a bit more darker or something like that. Okay, that's good. All right, so you have your elements all set up, and now it's time to add text. Let me go ahead and bring in the bottommost layer so that you have this white color thingy. Okay, so I'm going to add some text. You can click on text here and click, and it creates this thing. Click on keyboard and go to your keyboard and say hello fall or autumn or whatever you want, and click on this again. Now let's go ahead and choose a different font for this. You can choose any font that you have. If you don't have a premium version, you won't be able to add more fonts. You'll have to do it with the default, I guess. Now for the color, I'm going to click on black because I think that looks better. I'm going to increase the size by holding this corners here, you know, and you can do that. You can press this so it goes back, and you can add a hello fall here. Click on any layer, the text box goes away. Now let's go ahead and add some watercolor splatter. You'll go back to your bottommost layer, click on plus. We can go to your watercolor brushes, go to your watercolor, and you have watercolor wet splatter. So mine is set to 512, the flow is 100, the water flow is 60. I think that should work, and I'm going to add some splashes of water here and there like that. If you press more, it comes out darker, by the way, and you can just add a bit of splashes here and there. Don't add too much, it doesn't look good. So once you're happy with what you have, it's time to export this design. You can just click on export, publish and export as a PNG or whatever you want to give, and then export it onto your system. Yeah, that's it for arranging them into a card. Now I'm going to show you how you can create a pattern out of this using Adobe Capture. So once you have all your elements ready, we have to go ahead and duplicate this file so that we don't damage any of that. Click and duplicate. Okay, so now we have to go ahead and merge these groups together so that we have one element on one layer. That is, click and merge layers in groups. So let's go ahead and do that for all the layers. Okay, so have everything merged. Now the things that I do want to take into Capture, I have to go ahead and hide it. So I'm going to go ahead and hide any layer that I'm not going to be using for my Adobe Capture pattern. So once you have everything ready, that's only the layers which are visible. Click on Share and click on Publish and Export and click on Capture Pattern, and it opens Adobe Capture. So you get to this stage where you can choose the elements that you want. So I'm going to go ahead and choose every single one of them because I want all of them in my pattern. And click on Done. Okay, so you get greeted by this window here. I'm going to click on Levels and click on Free from Grid. And you can choose anything that you want here. It doesn't matter much because we're going to go ahead and arrange everything anyway. And then you can choose background color and give a white background. Let's go ahead and choose it like this. Alright, so now let's go ahead and arrange things. So click on layers. If you click, you'll get the things highlighted. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce this and move it a little bit around like this. I'm going to choose the cup and move it. Acorn, rotate it a little bit and move it. And this one as well, reduce it and move it like that. Maybe do it this way. Now I can click on the elements here. You can click outside and it takes you here click on elements here, and you can click and drag and bring the elements. For example, I want the pumpkin. I'm going to click it and bring it here in the center and drop it in, and it's going to show up here. And now you can arrange this or change the size and put it wherever you want. I think I'm going to put it here in the center because that is my main piece, and I'm going to arrange other things around it. So let's click on acorn. Acorn's fine. The cup has to be a little smaller. I'm going to place it somewhere here. And click, and then click outside. And let's bring in more things now. You can stop here and choose not to bring everything, but I think I want to get some things in here. So I will get this leaf. Click, and there's a big gap here, so we can bring more things. Maybe the squirrel. And you can look at how things are looking by clicking on this here, and you can see your pattern. So basically you can overlap things here like, like this, or you can just leave it under if you want. So what I'm going to do next is I can click back here on this icon, and it takes me back to this page, and I can choose to either rotate this a little bit so that it's not overlapping it so much. That's better. I think that looks better. I mean, if you want to create overlapping pattern, please go ahead and create it. It looks good too. So once you have everything ready and you're happy with your pattern, you can click on save. And then you can save the pattern. You can give any name here, and you can save it to any of the libraries that you have. If you don't have any library, you will get a plus sign here to create new one. So click on change, and you can change it to anything you want, and click on save. And next, if I click on the patterns that I have, I can just open it up, and then I can use this as share. I can save it to camera roll, will just be a image or snapshot of this. You can export it as a pattern tile, which you can put it on sites like Redbubble, and it'll automatically create a pattern for you. Or you can also save it as an SVG, which is what you'll use if you want to work with things like Illustrator or any other program. I think SVG would be a very good mode to export this. Okay, that's it. So that brings us to the end of this tutorial, and I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. You can support this channel by buying me a coffee on ko-fi.com, or you can also click on that thanks button in the bottom. I guess I'll see you in the next video then. Bye bye.